I was once asked to, Giles Blomfield got me to contribute to the Dorset magazine, and a similar sort of conversation observation. And I said, well, I think partly it was our isolated position, and in those days we didn't have half term or anything. You just went to the school and there you were for 15 weeks in the case of the autumn term. I think a lot of it had to do with sport. So Mike Hawkins was on the left wing, I was on the right wing. Alec Crawford and I did small ball shooting. He was the best shot in England as a schoolboy with full ball. And Giles Blomfield was the fly half. And I remember saying to Christopher, our son Christopher, when he was appointed to Moncton, I said, oh, well, I remember going there for my first ever first 15 game, age 15 and a half. And it took forever in the coach to get there from Allhallows. And so that's my memory of Moncton. Actually, subsequently, I went on playing against them in all three sports, but major sports. So that was my reasoning. And there were 240 of us. There were two day boys. They both came from Seaton. One was the barber's son, and I forget who the other one was. Tiddler Burgess, I think his father ran the greengrocers. He was a little older than me. But it was just that sort of place. And years later, there were three brothers Hobbs who came to the school. One was the head of the school the term before I got there. One was a little bit younger than me, and the other one wasn't even there when I was there. But to divert a moment, so I went down to the Falklands immediately after the war finished to be the chief of staff of the new headquarters, to clear up the muddle that my friends had created. And one of the things we needed to do was to extend the runway, and we needed to know about rock and hardcore and all that sort of thing. And the Royal Engineers said, well, we don't do that sort of thing any longer in the regular army. So I got my guys to look through the Territorial Army. And in 1982, the Territorial Army was nearly 80,000 people. And they said, oh, there's a chap who has something to do with a quarry. The start of his address is Easton in Gardeno. And I said, Wraxall near Bristol. And they said, how do you know that? And I said, well, because he's Jack Hobbs, who was the head of the school just before I got there. And his dad owned quarries and vast numbers of trucks, and we were very impressed. Get him. So he came down. I shall never forget it. He walked down the ramp of the Hercules and saw me and said, hello, my dear, how be then?
That's it, well.
Anyway, he gave us the advice we needed. But to go back to the school, we left at our house. I went into Stanton, I think because of Don Palmer, who was the great hero of the school at the time, of the then generation. And my housemaster was a wonderful character called Jack Yarko.
Yes. I've heard so many wonderful things about.
Well, to give you an idea, I mean, he wouldn't be allowed to do that. But I remember it was English or Latin in the Stanton common room where he always used to teach, which was sort of just this side of the clock tower. And he was doing this to some boy to get Latin verbs out of him or something, and parents and a small boy and the headmaster were going by, and the small boy looked at this and Jack said, well, he won't come here in a hurry, will he? But we loved him dearly, and when there was a time, I probably was James Vallance White was the head, so I was probably 15. And the headmaster was wonderful in many respects, including increasing the academic capability of the school markedly from 1948 when he took on. But he wasn't a great communicator, and I went out to get more bread, which people like me had to go and do, and I put it back on the table in front of James Vallance White and the top end of the senior end of the table. And I'd seen a notice from the headmaster saying that housemasters had all been there far too long and he was going to change it, and Jack Yarko was going to hand over to Bill Preston within a term or something. So I hissed this at the chap sitting next to the head of the school, because he and I played rugby together or whatever. James Vallance White said, what did you say, boy? And I said what I'd said, and he said, tea has finished, stood up. That was it. And we all then did prep, and we had house prayers after prep in the common rooms. And half the boys were in tears. And Jack said, "Come on, snap out of it."